Hi, I'm Josh from GH Coffee Solutions, and we're here in the GH GBS lab. We have a very special guest today, Kyle Ramage.
What's up, everyone?
Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Kyle was #1 in the US in 2017, Barista Champion, and he's also the owner of Black and White Coffee Roasters here in Wake Forest, North Carolina, with Lem Butler as a co-owner. We have Kyle in today because he owns a Bentwood.
I do.
We're going to be talking about how tasty Kyle's coffee comes out when he grinds it on the Bentwood. Kyle has one of the best coffee palates I've experienced, so I've
Too kind.
had the pleasure of tasting lots of coffee with him, and I'm very excited to hear what he has to say about the Bentwood Vertical 63 because he owns one.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us.
Let's get to it. So I want to give you guys a backstory about how I was first introduced to the Bentwood Vertical 63. So let's rewind back to 2018, 2019 kind of time frame. I was introduced to this machine by one of my old coworkers. His name is Daniel Hofstetter. And I knew Daniel knew what he was talking about because he's an incredibly inquisitive human being. So come to find out, he was introduced to this machine by one of our other previous coworkers, the inventor, the designer, Manuel. So Manuel is kind of the brainchild behind the Bentwood Vertical 63. He didn't start by creating a disc manufacturing facility. He didn't go about by making some of these crazy proprietary parts, but he took the time where he needed the time. And he used the expertise where he needed to make one of the most amazing grinders that exist on the planet right now, especially that we can buy as consumers, right? That are available for us to purchase. The question is always going to be looming in the air. How does this machine compare to the gold standard of specialty coffee, which is the EK43? So let's talk about the physical components right now and how they're the same and how they're different. So this is a vertical burst set grinder just like the EK43, though the discs in this machine are quite a bit smaller. So when you get into the industry of coffee grinding, all the engineers say the same thing. Disc size doesn't matter except for longevity and speed. So that's going to be the biggest difference that I've experienced with this machine versus EK43. The Bentwood is quite a bit slower in grinding, but what it does do, it makes up for in the cleanliness of its grind receptacles and its acceptance of coffee, right? So the EK43 all know sprays like crazy. But this machine does an amazing job of making really fluffy coffee grounds, whether it's for filter or espresso. But in particular for espresso, it just makes the fluffiest, easiest to use coffee grounds with no clumps. It's just exceptional to work with. This machine is also shaped very relatively similar, more like the short EK43s that you may have noticed, but it's a little bit more versatile because you have this time dosing function, as well as you can grind directly into portafilter using the correct apparatus, or if you want to use it as some kind of hybrid, kind of mutant grinder, totally doable as well. The swap between filter and espresso is pretty similar between the two grinders. This just has a slightly different numbering system to help you kind of get back to that ideal particle size distribution you're shooting for, which I found to be quite repeatable between machines as well. So yeah, physically, very different, but quite similar at the same time, achieving the same function in a pretty different way. Now we're gonna take a little second to talk about what really matters to me, flavor. What makes the Bentwood different than the EK43 when it comes to flavor? Espresso is where I have the most experience, so we'll talk about that for the most part, but it applies for filter coffee as well. So when it comes to espresso, they have a very similar ceiling of extraction capability. They can extract to similar rates in similar amount of time. Probably the biggest gripe for EK43s, especially in barista competition, is when you're nervous, things are kind of crazy, they run a bit of a knife edge. So you have a good espresso at this grind setting, but you move it maybe 0.5 millimeter over on the grind setting dial, and you kind of gotten out of the ideal sweet spot for that coffee. The Bentwood I found to be a bit more forgiving in that way, as well as still showcasing those really vibrant, clear, clean flavors. All right, well, let's get into some tasting portion with the Bentwood. Dang it. Well, let's get into a little bit of tasting with the Bentwood Vertical 63. Today I chose a coffee from Ethiopia, which I think is most vibrant and most beautiful coffees on our menu. These are one of the coffees that really caught me as far as coffee goes, as my aha moment for coffee. I didn't know that coffees could taste quite like this. Vibrant and floral and citrusy. And the one in particular that got me had a little bit of a hoppy characteristic. So today we have Binti Nanka from Guji, and we're gonna explore what's possible with the Bentwood Vertical 63. Let's do it. So we're gonna do pretty straightforward, 20 grams in, about 50 grams out. It's kind of our target yield. Boop. Moment of truth. Ooh, 20 in, 19.9 out again. Money. 25 seconds, 49.8 out. Let's do it. Looks really nice. It's insanely hot. Can you get me a spoon or like something to cool it down with? We've got this coffee cooled down a little bit. Again, this is Binti Nanka from Guji, Ethiopia, roasted by Black and White by us. And yeah, the nose is exceptionally floral, really, really sweet. It's showcasing a little bit more of that like red cherry and peach aroma than I was expecting. Getting a little bit more into those more condensed, more sugared flavors. And on the palate, it's just showcasing this incredible tactile, really, really full, super saturated sweetness, like really dense, really, really sweet. A little bit more citrus than is on the nose, but again, huge peach and cherry, and then like big, like, you know, honey sweetness with a little bit of like a kind of a milk chocolatey kind of finish kind of on the end there. So is it the perfect shot of espresso? Absolutely not. Is the perfect shot of espresso exist? Absolutely not, but it's darn good. But for real, it's super delicious. You want to taste one?
Thanks, Kyle, for all that awesome information and bringing your coffee in here and
Absolutely.
brewing it for us.
Anything for you guys.
I had just a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
Oh shoot, yeah, what's up?
So we did talk about how this has on-demand capability.
Oh yeah.
And it's got 3 different buttons that allows you to program 3 different dose times, if you will. How would you envision using those maybe in your cafe or your lab?
Yeah, I think it would be a little bit more cafe application-wise. So maybe you could do something like, you could do a bump dose, which is what, like when you just basically have a little bit of coffee that you need to, tiny, like a half gram, 1/10 of a gram, do a bump dose. The little bump dose button on the Anthems has always been super, super clutch. And then the other 2 buttons would be like maybe one for a pour over, and then maybe one for a Chemex, or one for a batch brew. Maybe those kind of ideas if you're utilizing it for filter coffee application. And then for espresso application, maybe just small variations. So like as the day wears on, maybe change a couple things. That's kind of the only way I can think of to apply it. Yeah.
No, that sounds good to me. And I just wanted to get some of your impressions about how it felt ergonomically to sort of like use the adjustment wheel and the buttons, and just how did that all feel to you?
The way things feel are very important to baristas, and the way that we interact with machines is very important. Not only the way they look and the way they perform, but how they feel as we use them. So yeah, especially the grind adjustment wheel is incredible. This is like very, very logical and very well laid out. I like that stuff quite a lot. Also the coffee coming out really fluffy and clean. Always nice.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kyle.
Dude, absolutely.
Always a pleasure having you here.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching. Go check out ghgbs.com to learn more.